You're listening to Girls with Grafts, a burn community podcast created by Phoenix Society for Burn Survivors, a leading nonprofit dedicated to supporting the burn community. In this podcast, we'll talk with burn survivors, share resources to help with supporting and improving burn recovery, and discuss how to prevent burn injuries. Here are your hosts, burn survivors and Phoenix Society's marketing team, Amber Wilcox and Rachel Kudlak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Girls with Grafts. I am Rachel Kudlak. I'm one of the hosts of the show, and today I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Amber Wilcox.
Hi, how are we today?
I am doing well. I'm super excited. As you can tell by today's title, it is National Volunteer Week. So all week long, we're celebrating some of the incredible individuals who give their time, their heart, and their energy to support the burn community, including today's podcast guest. So before I introduce her, Amber, can you give a quick shout out to today's podcast sponsor?
Yes, today's podcast is powered by Pritzker Hagman Law Firm. The Pritzker Hagman Burn Injury Legal Team helps burn survivors and their loved ones pursue compensation and justice throughout the United States. And you can learn more at legaljourney.guide. And the Pritzker Hagman team has been a longstanding supporter of our podcast, and we greatly appreciate them. So with that, I'm excited for you to intro our guest for today's podcast. It's been a long time since we've chatted, so I'm excited to get to chat with her today. Will you give us our intro, Rachel?
Yes, so today we are welcoming on Jeanette Johnson. Jeanette's journey as a burn survivor and her dedication to peer support have made her an integral part of the Phoenix Society community. Jeanette's story began on June 6, 2020, when she was burned in a smoldering fire pit while on vacation in Oklahoma during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Her experience in the burn ICU during such an isolating time helped her realize the value of peer support, such as a smile, a listening ear, or a shared story. Motivated by her healing journey, Jeanette has been an active member of Phoenix Society's virtual support group for over 4 years. This community has become a lifeline for her, offering not only support, but also lifelong friendships. Over time, she has expanded her involvement, becoming a Phoenix SOAR Peer Supporter, a climb instructor, an advocate and speaker for mental health, and a support group leader. She strives to help others know that they can rise and thrive after a burn injury. So thank you so much, Jeanette, for joining us today.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here.
Awesome. Well, to get started, can you just tell us a little bit more, about your burn injury and your journey as a survivor?
Sure. As you said, it was June 6, 2020, and I was about 3.5 hours from home. I was outside at Saturday evening by myself, and I had stood up and twisted my ankle and fell into the smoldering fire pit. And I got stuck. And I couldn't shift myself to be able to try to push on the outside of the fire pit to help get myself out. And for some reason, I say now, smart enough to not put my hands down in the pit and push myself out and burn my hands. But I did lay there screaming, crying out. The interesting thing is I never caught fire. It was just smoldering and cooking me. One of our dear friends, James, told me one time, you were just cooking like a chicken. So after that happened, I went inside. Finally, my spouse came out, grabbed me, pulled me out of the fire pit once my voice was heard. And then due to some situations with my spouse, I chose to stay the night, pack us all up and drive us home. And I took myself to a hospital. And it wasn't a burn hospital, so they doctored me up, sent me home, and then sent me to Medical City Plano the next day. It's been that's where the journey really began. I was in the ICU. I thought when I went to the burn unit, they were just gonna clean me up and send me home. I had no idea that I would be admitted to the ICU and start the journey of the grafts and all the fun stuff. And being during COVID, it was very lonely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jeanette, first of all, you look wonderful. It's been a long time since I've seen you. But I know we were both injured around the COVID time, and we spent a lot of time during COVID in support group together. I've talked a lot about my time, right, on the show about kind of how COVID impacted our stories. But do you want to talk a little bit about like what that peer support? We were pals and virtual peer support for the greater part of several years, right up until I think like I had my son, and then things got crazy over here. You were a staple in peer support for me. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that meant for you?
Oh, Amber, I went back today and looked back at your old phone number, and I found with another burn support, you called us newbies. You sent me a message, a group message, and said with another survivor, and said, "We're the newbies. Let's support each other." The furthest I could go back was August 17th, 2020. So that made me realize about 6 weeks or so after I was home, maybe a little less than that, that I had found the support group. And it was everything connecting with you to me. I was reading through some of the text messages and I thought, oh, poor Amber, but it was such a meaningful place for me because my spouse had no idea what I was going through. My spouse was very confused with all my emotions, the crying for no reason, everything, and I could log on and I could connect and people understood. I didn't even have to speak. And still to this day, I log on and just listen because I gained so much from it, from newbies coming on, from the old timers in there. I just always received something so special. But in the beginning, and it was during COVID, and not having anybody that understood and being so isolated, it was truly a lifeline for me.
I think there's a level of it was a lifeline, not just because we were burned, but also it was a very isolating time for the world. It wasn't just an isolating time for us. And we couldn't connect easily with other people to explain how we were feeling. And so when you think about like what we went through COVID with an added sense of trauma, right? COVID was traumatic for a lot of people, but it was extra traumatic for those of us that had those burn injuries during that time, because not only were we isolated from the world in general, we were isolated and we were overcoming something that was really traumatic for us.
Absolutely.
So I think we look back, right, and think like we survived, but it wasn't easy, right?
Yes, it was really hard. And at that time also with COVID, I was in Texas and I'm from California, and I was losing my mother to COVID at that time. So 6 months after my injury, I had lost my mom. So there was just added layers upon layers for me when it came to the experience during COVID. I wanted that mom hug. And I couldn't
and we weren't getting it. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
So that was hard.
Yeah, and I was saying too before we hit record that, it's interesting for the both of you how you were injured during COVID and yet got quickly connected to Phoenix Society. And I know that's one thing we do struggle with, survivors in the hospital not wanting to join support group or whatever it may be, but it was kind of the only option back then. You didn't really have anything else or anyone else to turn to other than the online virtual world.
Absolutely.
No, but I think we know that like I mean, it's a stat out there, right? Like the sooner that you can get the support, like the easier things are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jeanette and I were just blessed with the
Mm-hmm.
accidental, like it was an accident that I joined support, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like something was bothering me. I saw Phoenix Society and got connected. Jeanette, I don't know if yours was the same way yet. Like you saw a flyer or something.
Yeah, I had seen a flyer and then was handed a pamphlet, a packet that when I was released from my burn
Mm-hmm.
clinic. And then that's when I started looking online and researching a little bit. And then I got connected to the group, and I connect still every time. Now that I'm on the West Coast, it's a little bit harder, but I still will log on and listen and try to be there as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
You're with my pal Rich over there on that side of the
Yes.
continent. Yes. But yeah, I know how isolating that time could be for all of us, but we did join peer support and we found that support. And I like you mentioned, even after that time, right, continued to join, like, 2 years later, I was still joining. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Absolutely.
necessarily think I wasn't always, like you said, I wasn't always getting something out of it. I was getting something that, I mean, I was, but I wasn't always getting something out of it for myself. Sometimes I was giving the support. And I think this is also the case for you. Like after I started learning that I was also getting something from giving support, why I continued to join. And now, from what I understand, you are a peer supporter as well. Do you want to talk about that part of your journey and kind of how that has
Sure.
impacted you?
Sure. Yeah. It took me a while to sign up to be a SOAR, the Survivor Offering Assistance in Recovery. I wanted to make sure I was going through so much with the loss of my mother and my accident that I wanted to make sure I was in the right place.
That's smart.
Mentally myself. I'm a big advocate for the mental health side of the trauma that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me about 2.5 years until I finally said, okay, I think I'm ready now. And that was with doing individual counseling, couples counseling, and being connected with other survivors. I wasn't one that asked a lot of questions, so I got a lot of answers from Amber, because Amber likes to ask a lot of questions to
She's
her
right.
doctors and stuff. Yeah, so that was a big help for me, because I didn't know what to ask or what to do. I was in such a state of being the only provider for my family. I was in shock. All I wanted was out of the hospital. I needed to get home. I needed to get back to work. Mental health is something that is in my family. So I live with that with my spouse every day. So that is something that, it is very important to me. So when it comes to being a SOAR, I wanted to make sure I was at the right place. So now the hospital that I was serviced at, Medical City Plano, took a while to get everything started there and to be able to get into training. And then I moved here, but I got connected right away with Torrance Memorial here in the South Bay area. And prior to this, just this last week and a half, 2 weeks, I was able to do my first in-person hospital visit. So I
That's
thought, how
amazing.
ironic is that? I was asked to be a guest on here for Volunteer Week, and then I finally got to get connected with another survivor personally
That's
in
awesome.
person. Yeah, I've done the on phone
Mm.
support and stuff, but that was
It's a different
wonderful.
experience.
It's an
Yeah.
absolute different
I've
experience.
done quite a few at Orlando Health, and it can be um, overwhelming at first when you're used to just doing peer support on a screen,
Yes.
to really getting to like be in the room with the person that has been initially burned, especially in the hospital setting, right? There's a level of like trauma that you also overcome as a peer supporter. So I love that you said you waited till you were ready, because right, it can take us a while to say, okay, like I'm not ready for this yet. And I appreciate that you waited.
I think it's important for us to realize that our mental health and it should be the most important for us, as survivors, because so many feelings and emotions. For me, it wasn't just this accident. It wasn't just my burns. It brought up so many other things, and getting into therapy really helped me go back and work on things that I should have worked on prior to, for my own life in general, but it really just helped with healing with everything, life still goes on. That's my thing with all of us. You get burned, you go in the hospital, your life's still happening outside. I always think of the single mother with a child that gets burned, and what is she going to do if there's no family there for her and in the same state that she is, or city, or, if she doesn't have a relationship? Life happens, and it doesn't stop just because you're in ICU.
Yeah. And I think the mental health piece is super important, because I know that's something that I also experience in my family, and it can be a lot for you to just have to deal with your own mental health. And I love that you recognized it, because I know for me, I had been dealing with it before, right? Like my own mental health, but it took like the burn to also be able to realize, okay, how do I regulate my emotions in a way that's healthy for me? So I love that, Jeanette.
Yeah. And, I also I self-medicated. I started drinking a lot. All I wanted to do was just go to sleep. I just wanted to drink and go to sleep, and that wasn't a good combination. There was just so much going on at that time in my life that, it was just, let me drink my wine, go to sleep, wake up. I didn't want to have to think about anything. It was really a scary time, and it's scary when you're alone.
Definitely.
I like that you talked about substance abuse too, because it's definitely something I think that a lot of survivors turn to, right? Especially in a time of trauma like this.
Yeah. And Jeanette, what kind of, I guess, maybe inspired you to make a change or encourage, what like self-motivation did you find to kind of help you go to counseling and realize that you needed to kind of take control back and get on a better path?
I saw my life going down. It wasn't, I was functioning, I was working, but my personal relationships were being affected, seriously affected. And I needed to just grasp. I'm a faith believer, so faith is a huge part of my journey. And I just cried out one night, and the next day I woke up and I didn't have that desire to wash away everything. I didn't feel hopeless anymore. And I call it my victory day. I have my survivor day of June 6th, 2020, and my victory day is June 21st of 2021. And since then, I have not gone back to that. I don't feel a need to have to escape my life, escape my feelings, escape that internal pain. So
that's beautiful. And I'm sure that was something that took a lot of strength to also overcome, right? So you were using a substance to kind of feel better, and to just stop is a difficult thing to overcome. So I commend you on that. I guess my question for you would be like, what advice would you give others, right? I don't know that everyone's going to wake up and it was beautiful that you did that, but I don't know that everyone's going to be able to do that, right? Like, I wish I could control impulses as easily as I wanted to all the time, but like sometimes, right? Like the fact that you did that is absolutely amazing. Like you just got up and decided this is not what I'm going to do anymore. but not everybody can find it that easy. What advice would you give someone that is trying to stop, right, using substances?
Yeah, it is hard. And I that was my miracle. I believe I truly had a miracle to just wake up and not have that desire anymore. I have a lot of friends that don't have that same gift that I had. And it's really, until somebody's really ready, it's not going to happen, and there's AA out there, NA, there's so many different groups, that support that. But um, being at that place where you're ready, that's the hardest part. And, being connected in our community, I think if we could get to a place where people are comfortable being able to open up about that. I still feel there's parts of my story that I haven't fully talked about and shared. And because it doesn't just involve me, it involves my spouse. And so I'm kind of hesitant to talk about some things, but it was, I think if they could get connected, feel connected, if I could share more about that part of my journey, and if we all can open up more about those little things in our support, in our journey, it would make somebody else feel that there's somebody out there and I'm not alone. I think that was the biggest thing, is to not feel alone, to feel that you're connected, and that's what Phoenix Society Support Group did for me, was made me feel connected.
And can you kind of talk a little bit too about, now you're a volunteer, you're a trained peer supporter, but how you're still taking care of your own healing and your own journey, and making sure, even though, yes, you are giving support to others, but you're still maintaining and getting that support for yourself?
Yeah, it's being a part of support groups. Online Zoom is amazing. We get mad at technology when it doesn't work for us, but oh my goodness, how amazing is it that Phoenix Society has a calendar that has so many different groups that you can be a part of. And it's, for me, it's connecting to those support groups. It's reaching out and texting people that I've connected with on through the support groups, trying to build a little family for myself that I feel comfortable, that I can really open up with and talk with. And that's the biggest thing. And then, the giving back is a huge support for me personally. That feeds my soul, and that helps me with my journey.
Yeah.
I will say Rachel's, and this is just for for everyone, but Rachel always starts, the podcast kind of ideation with these prompts. And I just read a prompt and it made me laugh out loud, or almost laugh out loud reading it, because it makes me think. There's this one particular instance, Jeanette, and you just said it earlier before the recording started. But this prompt was about how we created a closeness and a community in the virtual setting. And my husband walked in just before the podcast and he said he still owes me a dance. And what's funny is Jeanette and I have never met in person, but Jeanette and I also are so close because of some of those moments that Phoenix Society created for us in that virtual setting. One of which was the dance party. And to this day, still makes me laugh out loud, because we both watched my husband dance across the screen. And I remember Jeanette messaging me, laughing so hard because of that. And I think it was some of those moments for us we became close because we, one, didn't have another option, but two, the Phoenix Society did create during that time some really wonderful opportunities for us to connect.
Absolutely.
Outside of that virtual peer support, one of which was the World Burn Congress, in which there was a dance party. I'll never forget Pam Peterson dancing across the screen. I was in tears that day. But I also know my husband was also getting down in the middle of our kitchen. And I didn't think anyone could see, but Jeanette did see Tyler dance across the screen. And it was probably one of the best moments that we've had. But
it's one I will never forget.
It's one you'll never forget.
Yeah.
And I think, so
Yes.
my question, I was going to ask you this question, but I also had to tell that story. I think there was a sense of closeness that we were able to get, and it didn't have to be because we weren't, I've never met you in person, and that's
Right.
unfortunate for both of us, but
Yes.
we were still able to create that sense of closeness. And I think a lot of that's thanks to Phoenix Society. But do you want to talk for a moment about how you continue to do that, right? Like, how do you still connect with others in that virtual setting?
Yeah, I've gotten pretty close with a few people. And then I went to, and not sadly, I won't say that. Sadly, I didn't get to meet you in person, but you decided to have a baby, which is just amazing.
On me.
Right. That was a good reason to stay home that year. But through the support group, the ABA in 2023, I was asked to be on a panel about from Pam Peterson, and it was about discharge and about going from hospital to home. And that was the first time I had ever done anything like that. And through that, I got connected with a few other survivors, and saw a few that I had met in the support group. I look across the room, I'm like, oh, I know you, and that feeling is just amazing, and then at the World Burn in 2023, I was asked to be on a panel there. My wife and I were asked to be on a panel with Cindy Rudder about intimacy, and that was very special. But the biggest part was being a part of the support group, the breakout support group. I was a co-leader in one of those, and that was huge for me. It was something I'd never done before. I felt so honored, but those little ways of giving back, and World Burn obviously changes everybody's life. It changed mine, seeing and being able to meet people in person. You mentioned Rich. Yes, Rich, meeting
Getting
him in
a hug
person.
from Rich. Right?
Yes. Yeah, that was so special. And, it's those not little, but little things that really make a difference, and made a difference in my life. It made me want to continue to do more.
Yeah, and you guys talking about the dance party and things like that, obviously having more of a structured peer support visit or a peer support virtual group is so important, but also just calling or FaceTiming a friend and maybe like sharing a cup of coffee or another beverage over FaceTime, and just like talking for half an hour about life, like not even about the burn injury, can also be so powerful.
Very impactful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I still not forget. There was also when Eduardo was I went to a, but he made like a pumpkin dip, right? And we like all, and again, like I bonded with, and whoever says that you can't connect with others via Zoom, like it's crap, because I do think like I made some of the best friendships that I'll ever have, Jeanette being one of them. And we didn't have to like have a face-to-face meeting. Like these are people that made lifelong impacts on my life, and we didn't have to meet in person. And to anyone that like is concerned about starting, I think like a program, whether it be virtual or not, like you don't have to be. And I anytime anyone always complains about Zoom, I'm like, stop, because I created the best connections to this day with some of the closest people that I have from a video camera, right? Like by myself in my own room. And I do think that that's something that I'd challenge like any hospital, right? You don't have to be in person.
Absolutely.
Granted, I think it makes in person more beautiful, right? Like when I do get to meet you, you get the best hugs and you have the best relationships because you've known these people for so long. But I don't think you have to be in person.
I'll never forget. After my mom passed, I went to California to help with my dad. And they both had COVID, and I lost my mom to COVID at that time, and he came home. But I remember sitting at a park, bawling my eyes out, drinking, and calling Amber. And I will never, ever forget that. Some of it, I probably don't know what I said, but I, I had nobody else to call.
Mm.
And Amber was the one I thought of and knew that she would be there for me and understand.
I
So
appreciate you saying that.
it's
That
amazing.
breaks my heart, but also makes me so happy to see you today, because I think you've come so far, but in such a beautiful way, Jeanette.
Oh, thank you.
No, I love hearing that. It just shows how powerful, the burn community is and our connections are. And, you calling Amber had nothing to do about your burn injury, and yet you found that connection and that support through her. So thanks so much
We have
for
that.
sharing that.
And that's not that Jeanette is not the only part, right? Like we are close with a lot of folks now in this community. Jane, Rich, like I have a group of folks that it doesn't matter how long it's been since we've like talked, they're always there to pick up the phone and say hello. And I think that's the wonderful thing about peer support, is that when you do have that support, you make those connections lifelong, right? So
absolutely. The other thing too is with Phoenix Society, there was a lot of activities going on. There was the Zoom World Burn. We had Grace teaching art. There was so many different little programs after that after I got connected with the support group.
I won't lie. I do miss
really and it
especially as a mom.
us.
It's really hard to do the in-person meetups when you're a mom. But I mean, I was just, I was late to the podcast tonight, and it was like, okay, hold on, give me a second. Let me just throw my hair up and I'll be there. But I do think, right, that's the beauty of the virtual setting, of like having virtual support is also a convenience factor for a lot of people, right? Of being able to just jump on and get on, and it doesn't matter where I am. A lot of the time I'd be on my way home from yoga, and I'd join and I'd be off camera for the first 30 minutes, eating or trying to like take my sweaty clothes off. So it didn't matter. But like I said, I challenge those to start kind of virtual, because we had the best time, and it was simple because it was Zoom, right? But it's still the best time.
I love that. Well, Jeanette, I know you just said, like a week or two ago, you just had your first in-person peer support visit. So obviously you can't share details of that visit, but what was that like for you, just being able to meet someone in person, and kind of how has, volunteering helped your own healing journey, and what do you get out of it?
Yeah, I had done a few phone calls, and it just warms your heart to be able to give back to somebody that just recently was burned. And that's been my calls have been ones that are recently burned. So, and I know you can call for support and SOAR support anytime, no matter where you are in your journey of your time from your accident. And the fact that they reached out so early really moved me, because that's when it's the most important, I feel, because you do feel alone. Nobody else knows what you're going through. Your family doesn't get it. They don't understand why you can't take care of that, or why you're crying, or why is it itching? We just put lotion on. They just don't understand. And everything that I got for my burns was through the burn community. Every answer was through the burn community. Once my grafts were connected, my clinic discharged me, and there was no, here, follow up in 6 months. Let's see where you are. Let's see how you're doing. So if it wasn't for the support, I wouldn't I don't know where I would have been. So going recently, being called and asked to come in and meet with somebody who is going to have a terrible, terrible time going forward, because I know what it's like, and being able to be there for them. They asked it for me to come back for a second visit, and that really touched
Wonderful.
me.
Mm.
It just meant everything. It gives me such joy to be able to give back to the community that gave me so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And I
I
don't
love
know,
it.
yeah, I don't know if there's any other words that can explain it other than just that joy of being able to give back to something that gave me so much.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that on this podcast, right? I just did an interview with Orlando Health, and they asked me that, right? Like, why did you guys start the podcast? And I said, I think it was just that, right? Like, you get so much support from other people during that time that if you can just help one more person through talking on this podcast, like, I'll have done what I wanted to do, right? Like, my goal was to just give back, because that was a very difficult time. And there were people that were like yourself, Jeanette, that were instrumental in like my recovery. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be here. And it's true. Right. And so
Yeah,
there has to be a reason that happened for all of us. To me, like, it has to be a reason. And to me, that reason is like, so that we can keep giving, and there's more folks like us that can continue to like help, because it's unfortunate, but accidents like these are still going to happen. And the only way that the recovery is going to be made easier is through like that peer support.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think of volunteering, volunteer week, is coming up. And I think about the volunteers. Volunteers in hospitals. When I did my training here at the Torrance, I had to go through their volunteer training,
Yeah.
and all those volunteers that have been there for years, amaze me.
Mm.
It's such a selfless thing to do,
Mm.
to give back no matter where it is. I give, you give advice and help and support, and like Amber did for me that day when I needed to reach out because I had lost my mom, and it had nothing to do with my burn, but the fact that somebody is there to help and they're volunteering their time is so special. That is something that is really easy to do, other than we have such busy lives and lives are crazy. But if you could give an hour or a half hour of your time to somebody that is new in their journey, it's so gratifying.
Mm. And it does take a level of commitment to do it. I know what motivates me, right? And we just talked about that. And I think that's what motivates, like, you didn't just take 1 hour, right? You did go and sign up and went through your peer support training, and then you went to the hospital training. Like, it takes a commitment to want to do this. So I think what's on the other end of that for you, right? Like, what's motivating you to show up every time you go and volunteer? Like, why is it like, I want to continue to do this?
It's the fact that it was given to me, and the fact that I am able. I don't have any disabilities in regard to movement, loss of limbs, hardship of being able to get out and do. And I know the importance of not having people in the hospital with me. I felt like the nurses didn't even want to come in the room, because they're so freaked out with COVID, and we were all experiencing a world pandemic. How crazy is that, what we have experienced in our life?
Mm.
And then to have the trauma. So that's what drives me. I am able to, I can. And if it's, I get a call from Phoenix Society or a message saying, hey, there's somebody that's like you that has, that's reaching out and asking for somebody else that had a fire pit accident to call and reach out to them. If I can sit for 30 minutes and just be there for somebody else because I am able to, why not?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I know I've shared this on the podcast before, but being a child burn survivor, my parents started taking me to summer camps for survivors like a year after my accident happened. And obviously at the time, looking back, yes, I was getting peer support, but that's not what they were like. It's not labeled as peer support camp for survivors, but I'm seeing other survivors my age up until obviously adults who are the volunteers helping run the camp, just seeing like the life after the injury was so important for me. I didn't realize what I was getting at the time, obviously, because I was only 4, but now looking back, I'm so appreciative of, all of those folks who have, helped run that camp and made sure, kids, we were just having fun with each other and, our burns weren't limiting us from having fun and enjoying ourselves.
I hear that a lot, that once they've gone to a camp or somebody has gone to a camp, they want to get back. They want to volunteer and work for that camp because they've gotten so much out of it. And I always say, I call it Jen's quote, Jen Harris, one of the leaders of the support group, but she said it wasn't hers, but trauma changes your identity without your permission. And that is something that has stuck with me. And I think about that often because, we didn't ask for this to happen, and it does. It changes everything in your life. Every single day, I am aware of my injury. My abdomen was burned. I'm coming up on 5 years like Amber, and I still have sensations that come to my attention every time I move, turn. It's there. It's always going to be something that is present. So I had to get to a place of embracing it, and then looking at the support that I got gave me that desire to want to give back.
Orlando asked me that when we were talking, and they said, like, do you think you've like moved on from it? And I said, you're never going to move on. Like it's not like they go away. And that's the problem. I think a lot of people think like you're burned and they can't see them, so they go away. Like my scars are there. And like, even though I've had laser and all of that, like, I don't think they fully comprehended, like, it doesn't go away. Like I still have waffle skin for the rest of my life. Right. And so I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially when they can't see your burns. And we've talked a little bit about like hidden, burns, is that like, just because you don't see it doesn't mean that I don't see it every day when I get dressed or every day when I look down. Right. And I think that's a hard thing for some people to understand this. Like I still look and I'm reminded of what happened every single day, whether I want to know or not. And I think it's a hard thing to swallow sometimes.
Absolutely. I think trying to connect people with the support group is one of my biggest things I tried to do. When I was at the hospital, I was talking up the support group because I got so much out of it, and it's just so important because the fact, like you're saying, same. I'm a hit and burn survivor. When I went back to work, nobody asked me how I was. It was like, it didn't happen, and that's a whole nother realm of emotions and hurt and rejection feelings. And, so people don't understand that. But another hit and burn survivor, if I bring that up in the support group, they'll say, wow, I felt that same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't
and
know
that's
that
what
there was
it's
someone
about.
out there that could relate. So I think that's the element.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't, and there were many times I didn't want to join, let me tell you, like, and my husband would be like, I think you should. And I'd be like, well, no. And he's like, I'm not going to pressure you, but I think you should. And I'd join, and there may have not been, right? Like, it may not have been for me that day, right? It might have been like I joined and I told my story and someone else said, hey, I dealt with that too. Like, and we were able to connect on something that may not have even realized. Right. So, even I think there's a lot of times where folks don't want to join. And I'm sure there were many times, Jeanette, going through what you were going through that you didn't want to join. Right.
Right.
What motivated you to log on, right? And just get in there.
The survivors that were there 60 years out and have been doing it from the beginning, have been connected with Phoenix Society from the beginning, and they're coming back and giving. That's what motivates me to join. I had talking about the SOAR part of it. I had gotten a call from Phoenix Society to do a just ask questions, and from those questions that I was asked, it was a online, a phone interview kind of thing, and from that, a SOAR, and it was James Bosch. I was very blessed. Called me because the person that was doing the interview could hear that I was in need.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what it's about. If you don't connect, you're out there not knowing that there are people that love you, people that understand, people that will be there for you. I mean, it's a family to me, and that's what brings me is the new survivors bring me back and have me connect, even in the beginning when I was burned.
So
it's beautiful.
It is. I want to talk for a moment. You're a climb instructor. I don't think I know anything about this. So can you tell me about what that program is and why it's important?
Yeah, it's one, now I'm going to be challenged here because I got to remember what the acronym is, and I don't think I'm going to be able to. But I was asked to, I got an email from the CEO of Phoenix Society asking if I would participate, Amy, if I would participate in this program. And it's a study through the Harvard Burn group. And we went through a 6-week training, and it's all about burns not being recognized as chronic conditions. So it's teaching on it's something that's out there that for other chronic conditions. So they're doing a study to see how it will work for burn survivors. And it's going through all different phases of healthy eating, learning about reading labels on the food. It's about setting up action plans. That's the main thing. It's setting up action plans to help you get through your week. What are you going to do this week for you, and being accountable? So, and then learning about balance and how important that is for our journey. And so the main thing really though is the action plans. How are you going to get through this week? What are you going to do for yourself this week? If it's, I'm going to take Tuesday and Thursday and I'm going to walk 1 hour, and then we come back the next week and we would be accountable, no, I didn't drink all mine, and troubleshooting, helping troubleshoot how to get through the pain. We talked about pain management, advocating for yourself, advocating with your doctors. So it goes through the right now it's a 6-week commitment for burn survivors to come on, and the teachers, the instructors, a 6-week commitment, and you log in and we do it all on Zoom and go through the course and teach people about the different things that other known and recognized chronic illnesses are
It sounds like
getting.
I need to be a part of this study because I need to find time to do that for myself as well. So
Yeah.
sounds like
It's a great program, and you can still, they're still taking survivors that sign up, and there is a little compensation for your time that they give also. So that's a little added bonus for survivors that would like to participate. On top of giving back to the community, because it is a study right now. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
well,
can definitely add more about our research studies in the show notes. I think that's definitely important. Yeah, I know. I just and with that, I think it's important. Natasha actually just sent an email about Florida folks for a bill that we have trying to get changed in Florida. So there are ways I think that you can get involved in, like we say, volunteer, right? But volunteer your time. I think it took me all of 5 minutes to craft an email to some of my Florida representatives about a bill that they're trying to change. And I got an email back immediately from one of them saying like, hey, I'm voting no on this. But that is just something small, right? Like research studies and things like that. You don't have to commit if you're not able to commit to something long-term. Maybe SOAR is a lot. There are other ways that you can get involved and let's say donate, right? Your time back. Like I don't have a lot of time in the week, but I had 30 seconds to write an email for Natasha and the Phoenix Society to help get a bill changed. So I think those are really important call outs too. Like we don't always have time. I know I'm strapped for time some days, but I think that's important too.
Absolutely. Anything that we can do to help support. I can't believe it's not a chronic condition. You know, I feel so blessed, and that I don't have some of the disabilities that some of my friends have. And I just couldn't imagine. My heart goes out to our community so much because there's a lot that's needed that's not given.
Yes, no, I mean, whether it's becoming a peer supporter or, like you said, joining Climb, and like Amber said, we'll make sure we have that linked in our show notes too, for folks. But even, or joining, our Facebook group and sharing a message doesn't even have to be sharing your story, just maybe something that's motivating you that day, or just a little ounce of inspiration you want to share with someone else. So, there's lots of ways to get involved.
Yeah, that's great that you said about the Facebook, because that is some, Wednesday nights they do
peer support
online phone chat. It goes really fast, so it's hard for me. But I mean, that if that's your thing, there's so many different ways to get involved and get support and to give back. You don't have to have gone through SOAR to give back. Like you said, if it's just something motivated, the Facebook page, I see people giving, asking questions on there, getting answers, people giving back on there, and they're not even SOARs. They're just another survivor that
wanting to help.
Connects. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, this has been wonderful, Jeanette. I know we always ask 2 final questions. We're coming up on time here. And so my last question for you would be if you could give one piece of advice or encouragement. I know you sounds like you did a lot of that this week even, but to someone navigating a burn injury, what kind of piece of advice would you want the world to know?
That it's so important to get connected with somebody that understands. It just, the difference. I know some people that I'm not going to do it, I don't want to, and are very stubborn, and then they do, and they're so thankful. So that would be my advice. Get connected with somebody that understands. Our family tries. We can give as much empathy. I have empathy for you that delivered a baby. I never have. But, I don't understand.
It wasn't easy, let me tell you. Everyone always asks me, Jeanette, like, oh, did you want to feel the pain? And there's always conflicts about drugs and that. I said, listen, I've been through a burn injury. I don't want to feel pain. So I'm going to go with the drugs. Like everyone always says, well, why wouldn't you want to try naturally? Because would you? Like I've been through pain. I've had enough pain in my life. I don't want any more. I'm going to go with the drugs. And going into it, they were like, oh, no, I don't want to try it. I've had pain in my life. I'm a burn survivor. I know what pain feels like. I'm not interested in trying it. So everyone was always like, why don't you want to? No. Would you willingly go in to get pain after you've had plenty of pain in your lifetime? No. So,
I can have empathy for you, but I don't fully understand because I haven't gone through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a way to end. But
there you go. It's just some advice for you, Rachel, in the future. If you're ever wondering, if they ask, do you want to have drugs? I'm like, why would you not? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do you?
You've already been through enough.
Yes, I've been through pain. I want to be like, have you seen my legs? Like, I've been through the pain. I'm good. So
I'll have empathy for you too, Rachel.
Yes, empathy. There's empathy on,
but I can't understand.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yes. Well, Jeanette, we do have one final question for you. It is our Phoenix partner question today, sponsored by the Pritzker Hagman Law Firm. So their question is, what is one thing you hope listeners take away from your story today?
I hope that they take away the fact that they're not alone. That is just really important because that's part of taking care of ourselves. That's part of our mental health help, is to know you're not alone. There's a lot of resources out there. There's all kinds of different times, different places that you can reach out and get help. Phoenix Society, just their website has so much to give. And so I just want people to know you're not alone. We're here for you. We adore you.
Jeanette, I need to have more conversations with you because you're like my personal hype woman. So I just want you to know that I have missed you so much, and it has been so lovely to connect with you. We'll have to have more. I need to join peer support. It's been a very long time, but
it has been a long time, Amber.
I know
and I can't wait for the day that you and Jane and I all get to meet in person. I've met Jane in person.
I know.
I just can't wait till we can all get together.
I know. Me too, Jeanette. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show again, and hopefully we'll get to see each other in person soon.
Yes. Thank you, ladies, for what you're doing. This is part of the healing journey, what you two do. And I just thank you so much for it and asking me to be a guest.
Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Girls with Grafts. If you are enjoying this content, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate